Hi Tappers. Recently in one of my live community tapping circles, we talked about chronic illness, and there were enough people who said, yes, please make a video, that this is what came from that. So hopefully you'll be able to get some benefit from this. And a shout out and a thank you and big hugs to those of you who requested this so that everybody could have access to this information. Just to give you a little bit of background about how this touches me in my life. I had a 17-year-long chronic illness myself. I had it for 8 years before there was any sort of diagnoses. And at that time was when the term chronic fatigue syndrome became a thing. So that's what I was given as a diagnosis, was chronic fatigue syndrome. Nothing was known about it other than, hey, this random lump of issues, we'll call it chronic fatigue syndrome. No cure, no knowledge of how or why it's happening. But there you go. It continued on further for 11 years for me. That's been some time ago now. That's what I had. So I have my own understanding of what that's like and what it's like to live on a daily basis, knowing that when you wake up, you're not going to appreciate what the day is going to be able to provide you for you, and to be in pain and know that there's not going to be relief for it, and to know that you may develop a mysterious issue that no one's going to know what to do for, and you may be prescribed yet another medication that may or may not do anything, and then that you're likely to get side effects from. And I also didn't know if I was going to survive and live this way my entire life, or if it was eventually going to kill me. And that was its own kind of weight. I'm speaking from, my own point of view, but I'm certain that any other points that maybe you're experiencing or loved one of yours is experiencing that's different than mine, the outcome of what it produces will be the same. And what I mean by that is stress. So one of the biggest issues with chronic illness is the stress that it compounds on the body. When we have physical ailments, it creates an emotional response as well. Meaning when we have pain, we react to what that pain feels like, right? We experience overwhelm, we experience shock. Maybe we experience anger or fear. All of these emotions have a chemical, physical response in our bodies, which then lead to different responses. Maybe as the immune system is shut down as we kick into fight or flight. Maybe we're really heightened in cortisol, things that are inflammatory long term. So that's what I mean when I say compounding issues. Okay, I have some statistics that I printed out because there's no way I could memorize it, and I don't have my teleprompter going where I have my script running. So this is all just coming straight out from here to there. Here we go. I got these off of medical research that's been done when the body is in a persistent fight or flight state. Okay. Persistent surges of adrenaline can damage your blood vessels, increase your blood pressure, and elevate your risk of heart attack or stroke. It can also result in anxiety, weight gain, headaches, and insomnia. High blood pressure and to those symptoms associated with low levels of potassium, such as weakness, muscle aches, spasms, and sometimes paralysis. The body turns on flight or flight response. It's prevented from turning it off again. This produces constant anxiety, overreaction to stimulation. So overreaction to stimulation, what does that mean? Okay, it could mean something happens and the way you respond to it, everybody goes, geez, are you okay? Maybe it's a bright light turning on and you go, oh, my head, oh, I've got a headache now. Or someone says something, they call and they say, something's happened to mom, and you go, what's happening? Well, she just, she got a bruise, she bumped into, and she had to, so it's nothing, but you have an overactive response, okay? Followed by the paradoxical response, so overreaction to stimulation, then followed by a response called learned helplessness, in which the victim apparently loses all motivation. So from these symptoms that I've listed, just from what happens in being in a sustained level of fight or flight, what of those are you experiencing? Or if it's not you, then your loved one who's in a chronic illness. Are they experiencing these? So it could be a complication of the stress that's causing this, or at least exacerbating this, more so than what their long-term illness is technically causing on its own. So this is where tapping can make a huge difference for someone who has a chronic illness, even if it's not addressing the illness straight on directly. Okay, what you're addressing is the stress. You're alleviating all of this. It will allow your body to release what isn't a response that's needed and allow it to focus all of its energy on where it is needed. The way to tap to get rid of this extra stress on a chronic illness is tap on the emotions that you're feeling, anything that you can identify that is a visceral, physical response. Okay, so you can tap on, I woke up this morning and I didn't care to get out of bed. It just doesn't matter. I don't even care if my feet touch the floor today. And feeling that makes me think I should be embarrassed that that's where I am mentally, that obviously that means I'm depressed. Maybe it means I've given up. I don't know. But that's where I am today. I don't even want to get out of bed. My pain level, I woke up at a pain level at an 8 in my back, at a 4 in my head, and a 10 in my nerves. It's just all going to hell today. And I feel angry about that. I feel betrayed by my body about that. So go into here's what's happening physically, viscerally, and here's how I feel about that. Okay, even just discussing it while you're tapping is going to help you have a release to it, because addressing that it's there, acknowledging that it's there, is the beginning of the release. Okay, so after you go and you say, okay, so pain and this and that and how I feel about it, I acknowledge the presence of my pain. I acknowledge the presence of my emotions. I acknowledge the presence of all of these symptoms. I acknowledge the presence of all of these complications. I acknowledge the presence of all of this negative thought. And even though I'm experiencing all of this, I'm choosing today to deeply and completely accept myself anyway. Okay? So you want to get to that point of acknowledgement and saying acceptance. It's okay if you don't feel it 100%. It's okay if you feel it a very small percent. You can even say that. Deeply and completely accept myself anyway. No, I don't. Well, I don't 100%. Do I 10%? Yes. Okay. Do I 20%? No. Okay. So even though right now I only deeply and completely accept myself somewhere between 10 and 20%, I choose to be okay with that. And I acknowledge that that's where I am today. So it's this communication to the subconscious brain that what you're experiencing is not a survival necessary response. That what you're saying is, yeah, I got it, body. I hear you, brain. Yeah, there's a lot of pain today. There's a lot of negative thinking today. There's no energy today. But you know what? It's okay. And it's not a life threat that this is happening. We're going to be okay today. And maybe not happy, maybe not thrilled with how today is going to go, but we're not dying from it. So it's okay. It's okay that this is where we are. Because in doing that, then your brain will release that attachment of all of these things happening to this is threatening my survival. Okay, which is what's causing that upheaval of chemicals and inflammatory response in your body, because your conscious brain, in experiencing all of this, is saying, oh no, we're not safe. So we've got to activate the safety response to get you to safety. But it's not really working that way. You're not running away from anything, even though you want something to be different. So in communicating to your brain, no, that's not how we're going to approach this. That's not how we're going to address this today. You can disengage that response and we'll figure something else out, So release the immune system, let it go at full speed, and release the blood from, the muscles of trying to run away from this. That's not how it's going to work out. So just relax. And we're just going to accept where we are today, and we'll go from there, okay? And that is going to help you alleviate a lot of those extra complications. And then with enough attention and consistency in doing this, what you'll see is that downgrading of that response, and you'll hit that lower level of, okay, here's what is actually physically happening in my body that is this ailment. That isn't the complications of the stress response. And just to give you one quick example, this is not a chronic example, but it's an extreme example. Dawson tapped with a man who had a broken femur bone, which is the biggest bone in your body. It's also said to be the most painful bone to break. He had been in a car accident 2 weeks prior, so it was a very fresh break. The man's pain level was at an 8 when they started. Dawson wasn't certain that the tapping was going to do anything because this man had an obvious extreme, injury, and tapping doesn't alleviate something that has a legit reason to be there. So if there's a pain signal that's telling you something of you need to pay attention to this, you need to be careful with this, then your body's going to hold on to that. But it will alleviate any stress response that isn't necessary in the moment. Through tapping, they discovered that this man was holding on to a lot of stress and a lot of blame and a lot of anger about how the accident happened. By the end of the session, which was about 30 minutes, his pain was down from an 8 to a 2. The 2 is what was there physiologically because of what had happened in the breakage and the tissue damage to his leg. The other 6 points of pain that he was experiencing was this stress response that the body had compounded on top of it. So here's hoping, tappers, that by following this, by allowing yourself to say, yeah, I acknowledge that this is here and it's okay, that your body too will find that kind of dramatic relief as you continue on your healing journey. Thinking about you, and I'll see you soon.